So I'm starting this with a look out the window. This is the icy winter wonderland we've been looking at today. The ice all over the trees, which is now rapidly melting and falling from the trees due to the rain. So going out for a nice walk, probably not the best idea right now. Oh, that's weird. Of all the logos to fall, Arizona's fallen off my computer. I got a bunch of logos in eBay, and they're smaller than I'd anticipated, which would be fine, but they don't seem to stick very well either, so I've stuck all 30 of them in my computer, but I don't know how long any of them are going to last. But Phoenix fell first, and that's good, because Phoenix is the team I am talking to you about today. Now, there's been a lot of talk about, sorry about the glare, a lot of talk about what's going to happen to the Coyotes. And apparently, rumor has it, and it's an unsubstantiated rumor, but as Darren Drager said, where there's smoke, there's fire. The Coyotes, apparently their ownership, have been spotted in Seattle and Portland. Those make sense, those locations. See the weather out there? It's cold. Hockey's a cold weather sport. And as much as Arizona has, I honestly believe, done its best. I think it's been much maligned, but again, I make the comparison of Vancouver with basketball. I think it would have helped if we'd had a decent team. If we'd ever had a Vancouver Grizzlies team that could actually do something. I don't know, make the playoffs. And the Coyotes fans have been put through a very similar rut. And their rut's gone on for 20 years. I can't imagine the Grizzlies lasting 20 years in Vancouver. Once they went to Memphis, they got better. But that's part of the reason. Basketball players didn't want to play in Canada. Might have wanted to look at that before they put two teams in Canada, instead of just, put one in Toronto and see if it works and then branch out from there. But the fact that the Coyotes ownership is looking at Seattle and Portland, well, of course they are. And they've denied it. For what it's worth, they've denied it. They've denied that they're looking anywhere else. The Coyotes are always at or near the bottom in attendance. They're always one of the lowest valued, lowest revenue generating teams in the league. And again, I feel bad for Coyotes fans. And I feel bad for fans of teams like Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, San Jose, Anaheim, LA. Teams like this who can send their fans to Arizona to watch a hockey game, and in some cases pay less money than you're going to pay to watch your team locally, especially when your team's good. But, this is one of those things. There's only so many years that the Coyotes can lose money before finally the NHL says, okay, you're allowed to move. Bettman has been very steadfast about staying in Arizona, partly because he moved the team to Arizona. Not personally. I mean, ownership had to agree to it, and it was Winnipeg management that ultimately turned a Winnipeg Jets jersey into this monstrosity, which is now loved as being beautiful for some reason. It's the same jersey I bought almost 20 years ago, and yet now it's revered, and back then it was loathed. I'm on the fence with the jersey. I'm on the fence with the organization. But here's the thing. The Coyotes are in bad shape. You look at this year's rentals. Who do they have? Doan, who should have been traded about 4 years ago. Let's be honest. Should have been traded 4 years ago. When he had more value and he was still a goal scorer, he should have been traded for prospects and young guys. And Hansel is now being floated about as the guy who's going to get moved, and Montreal's the logical landing place for him. But how much they get for him is still up in the air. And then there's not a whole lot else that the Coyotes have to sell. I think the worst part is, and I predicted at the start of the year, wrongly so, that I felt the Coyotes were going to take a step forward, because I felt like with Domi and all these young guys that they were going to just do it. Duclair's had a terrible season. Domi's had an injury-riddled season. And, this year's kind of been a wash for him, so we'll just say sophomore jinx, and next year he'll be better. But how many really solid pieces are there in Phoenix right now or coming up? I mean, you got Chychrun on the blue line, sure. Kraus, I think Kraus is good at what he's doing now. I don't know that he has top six skill, and I think that might be why Florida said we're going to give him up, because I don't think they saw top six skill with him. I think he's a bottom six grinder type more than anything else. So I'm not sure that I buy into the Coyotes are going to be better in 2 to 3 years as much as I might have. They're going to get probably a top three draft pick this year, unless the draft lottery turns against them and they get fourth or fifth. But they potentially could get first. They get Nolan Patrick. Is Nolan Patrick a savior for the franchise? No. But really, it's a matter of how many years do you lose money? The NHL has made it clear that they're willing to lose money every year forever. With the Panthers, the Coyotes, and on some level, the Lightning and the Islanders. They've shown, oh yeah, we'll just keep losing money. Where other leagues, especially the NFL, where you sneeze the wrong way, your team gets moved. Other leagues don't have that kind of patience. So, to me, it works to the NHL's benefit and to its detriment. I'm glad that the league takes moving so seriously and that they want to serve their fans well. And I get that. I really do. I get the idea that whether it's 17,000 fans a game or 11,000 fans a game, those are fans. Those are fans in Arizona who, if that team moves, probably a lot of them are going to lose interest in hockey. They'll be your hardcore fans. But it's not like Canada or northeastern US where there's always a grassroots hockey movement. I mean, if let's say something insane happens, Aquilini sells the team, and whoever buys the team looks at the Canadian dollar and says, "That's it, the Canucks are out of here," and they're moved to Seattle. And as much as people go, that would never happen. Late '90s, it was talked about. It looked like it was probably going to happen at one point. But I discussed that in the Messier video I posted earlier this week. And you know, if hockey left Vancouver, you've still got the Vancouver Giants. You've still got hockey out here in the valley. You've got hockey everywhere. And it's not like fans are going to stop watching hockey. We would just watch the Seattle Totems or Seattle Metropolitans or whatever they called themselves, or if they took the Thunderbirds name from the WHL team. And we would hope they never win the Stanley Cup, because if Seattle won the Stanley Cup right after Vancouver left here, we would be very upset. I think that's probably an understatement. I mean, we'd be happy for the players, but it would suck not to get to enjoy that for the city of Vancouver, because, fires are fun. And if anything, Vancouver's proven that they'll riot whether they win or lose. Uh, so that's the other side of it for Vancouver, but I digress. For for fans in Arizona, I'll say this: it's not the first time I've heard this kind of rumor, but I think it has legs right now because Seattle wants a hockey team, and I don't know that the NBA is going to let them back in. So if the NBA isn't forthcoming with an expansion team or letting them relocate another team, then you're left with hockey. It's not a bad consolation prize. There's other cities in the U.S. that I don't think mind having hockey instead of basketball. I'd ask people in St. Louis, for instance, if they mind not having basketball while they have hockey. But I think hockey's a pretty darn good sport to follow if you're in Seattle. And I think you've got to strike while the iron's hot. I know that's why Vegas has a team. The NHL wanted to get into Vegas before anybody else did. And Oakland looked like they were getting in, and the last thing I read, they may not have crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's, and there may be a problem with the idea of moving to Vegas. Although I'm sure the NFL will deal with that issue as soon as they can, because I think the NFL wants into Vegas as badly as the NHL. But Seattle's a close second. Remains to be seen whether or not they'd support it. I think if the NBA goes back to Seattle, the NHL doesn't go. But if the NBA doesn't go back to Seattle, the NHL goes. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're just browsing your way through. And as Drager said, where there's smoke, there's fire. Do you think where there's smoke, there's fire? Or do you think the NHL is just going to lock the hammer down and say, nope, this team isn't moving no matter what. We'll just let you sell to another owner if you think that the team isn't viable in Arizona. We'll find somebody who thinks it is viable in Arizona. And how many cities in Arizona can they play in before they give up? Phoenix, Glendale. Do they move back to Phoenix? Well, Scottsdale. Maybe they just tour Arizona. They're the Arizona Coyotes, so maybe they just have a game in a different city or town every night, and you never quite know where they're going to play. Be a big surprise, like a speakeasy, just with hockey teams and a lot of money involved and baffling, bewildering uh, hockey arenas showing up all over the state of Arizona. I don't know, but they've got to do something because the team loses money and attendance is always right near or at the bottom. And as much as I want to have faith, it gets tough. And I say that because it's got to the point where the rumors of Arizona moving have been going for so long that I'm kind of pulling for Arizona right now. Like, just turn it around. Let's just turn it around and get it going because I'm tired of this. I'm tired of hearing about it. I want to see a success story in Arizona. I want to see the team do well. It's probably part of the reason I picked them to make the playoffs this year. Whoops. I thought they got to do it this year. They got to turn it around, make the playoffs, and make a run. They got to do something to make this team viable in Arizona, and it hasn't happened. And with this year's step back, which is about 20 steps back, you have to ask yourself, how many years is it going to be before they're a playoff team, much less a contender at this point? I'll let you guys debate that in the comments below, and hit like and subscribe because it's a popular thing to do these days. And thanks for watching. I'll be back again soon.